Yeah, obviously, you have to wait a very, very long time for this time of year to come around. So incredibly excited with this group and a real mix of returning guys with great experience from last season and a very hungry, ambitious, young domestic freshman group with some experience transfer sprinkled in. That yeah, are excited to make their own impact and footprint on our history, and yeah, a new chapter as well. So looking forward to Thursday. Looking forward to getting back out there.
Nick, go ahead.
Dan, how are you, man?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing from your team in practices and scrimmages? Like, do you like where you are at this point?
I do. I think preseason has served us well. I think training's been fantastic, and I think from the games we've probably got everything we needed to, which is an interesting thing to say because we lost one of our preseason games as well, and I think that was good to go through that experience. Good to, if you like, hopefully get it out of the way. But yeah, I think there has to be a recognition that you know the status and the title is only that, and we're very much human. And we need to understand what we need to bring and what standards need to be applied every single day. So I thought that was probably the most valuable experience that we've had in preseason. But to follow that up in the nature of the performance and the result with Montgomery County coming in here on Saturday was a really, really nice way to conclude preseason and see the adjustments, see the improvement in certain areas, and the manner in which players wanted to correct the shortcomings that we displayed in the previous preseason game was really, really encouraging. So I feel as though we've left preseason in a really, really good place, a good place to finish, and had some valuable experiences along the way.
Nick, another question.
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Adam. Yeah. So, Coach, the process to get Marcus back here, could you just walk us through what that looked like? And then as a follow-up to that, when he was drafted as the highest overall pick in program history, like, could you have ever imagined that you would be coaching him again, getting ready for another season?
Yeah, it's obviously we were aware of the changes in the MLS draft policy going into this year, and obviously, you know, Marcus was on the radar of a number of clubs very, very quickly. I think he had 7 goals after 6 games, and the phone started ringing to some extent. So it was a kind of a, nothing really came as a shock. It was kind of a extended process. Where I give Marcus a ton of credit is the way he navigated that. You have to understand that, you know, Marcus was getting banded around as a potential #1 draft pick, and he was still 18 years old. Didn't turn 19 till October. So there was a lot of pressure on him. And I thought he did an incredible job not letting that really ever showcase itself in the games. Maybe privately in some conversations that we had, but I think he managed himself incredibly well and very maturely during that process. So to be honest with you, when he went as early as he did to Minnesota, I probably had an understanding that there was a very, very good chance that he was coming back to us. Also, the nature of where Minnesota's circumstances were, they actually were going through that draft without a head coach, a hired head coach. So again, the conversations with their head scout and others along the way gave me an understanding that there was a good chance that they saw incredible potential in Marcus, but probably had a long-term project in mind that meant that him being back with us at West Virginia might have been the best experience for him. To follow that up, he had the opportunity to go in with Minnesota at the conclusion of the spring, get some experience with both the first team and the second team there. And I think it was the perfect experience for Marcus in the nature that I think he feels as though he's really excited for when that time comes, but also believes he's in the best place for him and his development right now, which is still with us here at West Virginia, which of course we're incredibly excited about.
Michael, go ahead.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, Coach. Yeah, can you kind of just talk about the schedule a little bit? Obviously, opening at home is nice. You guys were unbeaten here last year. And the Sun Belt has become one of the deeper conferences in the nation. I think that's pretty obvious. So can you just talk about the schedule and what excites you and what maybe challenges are ahead for you guys?
Yeah, I think there's some maybe some dark horses in our schedule. I think maybe not the name brand recognition that we've had in previous years. I can assure you that's not as a result of anything that we try to do. There have been some teams that are familiar to our schedule that perhaps decline the opportunity to come and play us. And I understand to some extent, obviously, the strength of schedule, RPI implications. You do have to have a balanced schedule. And obviously, as you referred to, the Sun Belt now has become such a strong conference itself that you get a lot of really big RPI games in amongst that. What'll be interesting, I think, will be the trip to California. Obviously, two familiar opponents from last year. We actually had that game with LMU scheduled a long time before we happened to meet them in the Elite Eight. So, we're going to California to play an NCAA team in Cal Baptist, and then following that up with the team we've played in the Elite Eight from a season ago. So two teams that I anticipate will be ranked and ranked quite highly, both on the road. That's a pretty big time trip for us for sure. After just 3 games, and then we follow that up with a UNC Greensboro team that may not have blown anyone away last year, but were again put on the schedule a year prior after their tournament run to the Elite Eight as well. So I'm expecting them to bounce back. They were an unbelievably huge banana skin or potential banana skin for us last year. They were the best 2-win team I've ever seen. They just had a really strange run of results for sure, but a very talented team as well that I think will surprise a few this season and be much higher in the RPI implications going into this season. And then another trip to Dayton as well. So another NCAA tournament team that again we've gone there and know firsthand how difficult it is to go there and get a result. So we haven't made it easy on ourselves, and that's the way we like it. You want to feel like you're not looking back over the course of the season and thinking and regretting your schedule, regretting that you didn't play enough high level high end teams. And again, that's kind of the beauty of college soccer. I think there's incredible parity throughout the division. And then there's a lot of mid-majors or schools with respect that maybe don't have the name brand recognition that's associated with football and basketball that are very good and very dangerous. And I think we have a number of those schools in our non-conference schedule this season.
Brian, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Dan, I've actually got 2 for you, if that's okay. The first one being kind of in theme with what you were just talking about there with the preseason rankings and the polls and all those sorts of things. The Sun Belt kind of, I guess we could say, almost runs through West Virginia to a degree with WVU and Marshall. Just, I know you've talked about this before, but where has this state kind of gone in terms of its soccer acumen and its place in the men's college soccer world?
Close to the top, right? It's obviously really cool to see the nature of both our position and theirs as well, right? You get the national rankings and you've got 2 teams in the top 10. They obviously pipped us in the preseason conference rankings and fair play, more power to them. I know Chris well. I know he'll be about as worried about that as I am right now, quite honestly. So it's really cool that we continue to raise the profile of the state and then the 2 biggest Division 1 schools within that state on top of things. It's an inconvenience because it's almost always one of our hardest, if not hardest, game of the season, and we certainly hope we can say the same, or they say the same about us, should I say. But yeah, look, I think it's one of the things that we can recruit from. The quality of the crowd, the massive occasion that we had last year. It's one of the first games that we reference when we recruit, not just because we beat the number 1 team in the country at that time, but because there was a massive buzz and energy around it, and the number of recruits that I've reached out that watched that game anyway, maybe before they were even considering West Virginia, has certainly helped us, and I hope them feel like they've raised their profile in the recruiting landscape.
And then my other question is here a little bit different, little unsoccer related, I guess, but you guys will be obviously one of the teams at WVU to wear the 44 patches this year for Jerry West. Just as someone who's been around this school, this university for a long time now, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I got to see it for the first time on Saturday. The patches were on the uniforms. So to know that you have someone that is so synonymous with more than just the university, right? And I think that's the really, really special part of what it means to represent this university. Is the reality is you represent the state as well. I think that's so cool. And again, his footprint on the NBA, again, that signature emblem is just super cool that as a university we get to celebrate him and recognize the values that he stood for as well as a former student athlete here at WVU.
Nick, back to you.
Dan, last year you called Ryan and Utto, your midfielders, the unsung heroes of the team. They're both back. What have you challenged them with, and what do they need to do in order to elevate their game to help you guys reach the next level this year?
Yeah, I think more of the same is very important. But of course, you'd love to see a little bit more value, perhaps in the final product of what we do. I think there's some subtle adjustments to how the two of them will play that may present a few more opportunities for one at a time to perhaps join the attack a little bit more and get a bit further forward. So they're going to find themselves in some opportunities and some moments where they're a little bit further advanced in the game. And I'm sure they'll appreciate the opportunity to do that as well. I know Ryan has yet to score for the program, and he's been here longer than I have. So I'm quick to remind him of that. But no, that would be one minor detail. But honestly, if they both give us the same quality of performances and consistency that they did last year, I'd bite your hand off for it.
Kevin?
Hey, Dan, back to the Marshall thing. I know it's going to be a thing all year, but I apologize. Last year before
the last game of the regular season, so it's not like I got to wait 17 more games before we can talk about it.
Right. So last year you said that you did meet up with Chris Grace. I can't remember if it was before or after the game, but that was a really chaotic part of the season. So did you guys touch base in person this summer, and were you able to kind of digest everything that happened last year and have a heart to heart about it?
Funnily enough, we were on the same recruiting trip to Tokyo, Japan. So we had what 3 or 4 days to enjoy one another's company. Not necessarily feel like we were in direct competition for a minute, and yeah, kind of just be friends and not competitors for a minute. Having said that, they took a very talented Japanese boy from that event, but that we'll have to deal with this season. But no, we had a really nice opportunity to spend some time together, and it was just a kind of unique situation because it was, for the two of us, it was both our first time in Japan. Obviously, with us having the likes of Utto Sakata from the season prior, and what he's done now, signing his first full professional contract with Orlando City, felt as though we would be well represented with his presence. And then Chris as well. They had 2 very talented Japanese players on the team last year, so it was a recruiting opportunity. But the nature of the trip meant there was a lot of free time as well. So yeah, we visited some parks and some historic landmarks, and yeah, like I said, kind of hung out and enjoyed each other's company. And I'm sure yeah, we'll get back to being competitors here very soon.
Joe, go ahead.
Dan, with the amount of guys that you have back, I know you don't have a ton of positions that are up for grabs, but goalkeeper, where does that stand? And what were some of the other position battles that may still be going on?
Yeah, goalkeeper's a really good one. Just had a long conversation with the staff as well, and yeah, you can all feel sympathetic towards me. We are really struggling to feel as though there's much in it, and it's not because anyone's not done enough. It's because they've all done really well. So we have 2 returning goalkeepers in Mark Bonaire and Lorenzo Nunez that have been with the program a long time and have really pushed one another, arguably for that 2 spot more recently with Jackson Lee. And then 2 young players coming in, Mark and Zoe, both have the potential to graduate at the conclusion of this season. So we wanted to feel like with the remaining openings we had on the roster that we brought in some continuity in the goalkeeper position with 2 true freshmen in Toby Moore and Chase Collins. All of them have seen pretty good minutes under the circumstances of having such a small window in preseason with 3 exhibition games. It's just so tricky because the sample size is incredibly small. The nature of the position, it would be unfair to judge on one mistake here or one mistake there. because it's the nature of being a goalkeeper sometimes, but they've all done really, really well. So we're still kind of navigating that landscape right now, trying to figure out the way we can manage a very, very talented group from top to bottom in the goalkeeper position. And then second to that would probably be some of the work that we have been able to do in the transfer portal with the likes of Ethan Deckeldack, Simon Carlson, Felix Evold, who the three of them I think would be fair to say have come in the hopes that they're filling, the obvious positions would be Yutaro Sakata and Luke McCormick, who again incredibly value over the period of time they were with the program. So I'm certainly doing a disservice to some of the young freshmen that have come in and made a great impression, and I think are ready from day one, which is really, really exciting. But we've been able to feel as though, as you mentioned, the returning group, I think we have something like 8 of that starting 11 from the final, or from the semi-final, should I say, that are back with us. I think it's 11 of our top 14 in minutes played that are back with us this year. It would be logical to say that the opportunities are few and far between. But genuinely, we have a really, really good group that have come in here that are going to push some of those returning players, and some of those players that did very, very well for me last season for their positions.
Michael, back to you.
Yeah, Coach, can you talk about the difference in this season? Obviously, you guys are starting number 3 in the preseason polls, preseason conference player of the year in Marcus. And then last season, you guys aren't in the top 25 in the preseason. What has that difference been like starting this season in the national spotlight? I mean, has it changed your mindset? Do you see any pressure among the team in the locker room? Is there a change in attitude? Like, how has that been for you guys starting the season?
Yeah, I think it will remain to be determined. It would be very easy for it to become the most difficult aspect of entering the season, quite honestly. I think it was something that we addressed in our very first meeting with the group, right? Is, what do we want this season to look like? There were just so many milestones and achievements from last season that it would be very easy to fall victim of comparing ourselves to last year. And I think we made it very, very clear that we're not chasing our past this season. This is the 64th year of West Virginia men's soccer, and it's the 64th chapter, right? The 63rd one has closed. That was last year. That was Luke's team. That was Shitaro's team. That was Jackson's team, among many, many others. We'll take those memories and we'll absolutely take the confidence that we can have from that season. But this is a new chapter. This is a new start, a new beginning, and we have to make our own path this season. So the last thing I want is, if we're not 15 games unbeaten to start the year, that we somehow judge that as a failure because we were last season. It's just not realistic to try and look that way. We have to, as I said, etch out our own path this year, and be excited about the idea of what we can achieve with this group and what we can achieve this season, because it wasn't like we won a national championship last year, right? There's still more that we can achieve, and I think there's a good hunger and a good recognition and awareness from the group that there is more that we want to accomplish this season.
Nick, we'll go back to you for the last question.
So, Dan, there's several new rules in college soccer that I wanted to get your take on, specifically the substitution rule. Are you a fan of that substitution rule? How could it possibly change things? Because I know that you've in the past said that your depth makes you stronger, but now you're going to be limited in how you can use that depth.
Yeah, you have a good inkling. I'm not a fan of the substitution rule. I voted against it, and felt like I made a pretty valid argument as to why I don't believe it's best for the overall student athlete experience when you have a squad of 30 players like we do. My fear on behalf of those players is that those who potentially get less will get even less, and those who get more that might need a rest will have to continue to get more, because maybe we're less reluctant to make changes in the really, really high pressure situations. The perfect example would probably be someone like Caldera last year, right? Who often we got relief from the likes of Sam Nienka or Jake Ross in those tight games in the middle of the second period. where now we have decisions to make, because if we give Marcus a rest, he's not coming back into the game. So we have looked at it, we've discussed it, we utilized the last match to kind of play around with that as well. So we tried to follow that specific rule. And again, just more conscious of the 6 opportunities that you get to make changes, how many you want to feel like you've used in the first half, for example, which I would say it will be likely that we'll only make 1 or 2 rounds maximum of changes in the first half. And then thinking through, do you want to start and finish with your strongest group? Is there a necessity of resting someone? We're going to have to kind of navigate this new normal pretty quickly in the start of the season.
Dan, can I just clarify 2 points about that substitution rule that I guess I'm a little hazy on? It is 6 moments throughout the game to make substitutions, not 6 men, period, correct?
Correct. Six moments. So, for example, in our previous contest with Montgomery, we made 4 changes all at once in the first half. I think you'll see certainly those early substitutions. If there are changes, they'll be more likely that you'll see multiple changes unless it's an instance of an injury.
Yeah, and no re-entry, regardless of when the athlete is taken off.
Correct. No re-entry. There was never any re-entry in the first half. Now there's no re-entry in the second half. So I do think in the really, really closely contested games, there'll be some difficult decisions to navigate for the coaching staff. And as I said, I think we've always really celebrated our depth. We always recruited and had a strategy that's kind of encouraged and advocated for the depth of the squad. This arguably inhibits our capacity to utilize that in the same fashion that we did previously.